In this video, we'll take a look at how to calculate child support in the state of Illinois. If you have a child of whom you share custody with your ex, and you want to find out how much child support you will have to pay or how much child support you can expect to receive depending on who the custodial parent is, then this is a really good calculator, very easy to use, that the Illinois government has put together. Let's take a look at this. First of all, it should be very clear that this is just to calculate an estimate. This is by no means a court order that will be generated from this. Of course, this is only an estimate that you can then attach to your petition for child support modification, or if you're responding to a child support modification petition. You can get a PDF out of this that you can attach with your response or your petition. But this is an estimate. The final authority is the judge, but this should give you a pretty good idea of what the numbers might look like. I will share this web page address in the description so that you can go there as well. This is some disclaimers here saying that this is an estimate only. And it says if you're a parent, then this is the link for you. If you're an attorney or child support professional, that this is the link for you. Let's assume that you're one of the parents. Let's go here. I'm going to zoom in a little. So as you can see, this is a questionnaire. It looks like a number of questions, but they're very easy to go through. So let's start. What is the number of children for whom support is being estimated? In this example, just for the sake of simplicity, just let's assume that there's only the one child. Do you have the majority of the parenting time? So for this example again, let's assume that you are not the custodial parent, the other parent is the custodial parent, and you get the child for part of the year. So you share custody with your ex, with you being the non-custodial parent. So we'll say no, you don't have the child majority of the time. And let's look at the other questions. Overnight stays. How many overnights do you exercise with these children annually? Again, for the sake of simplicity, let's say in the year your ex gets 150 overnights and you get 115 overnights. Of course, your ex gets 250 overnights and you get 115 overnights, and that makes 365 total. So let's say 115 overnights with the child. Please select your income type. You have two choices. You can just enter your gross income, and this calculator will calculate some basic deductions and calculate the net income from those numbers for you, or you can enter the individual income as net. So let's just assume that it's gross income for now, and let's assume you earn $5,000 a month. Please select the other parent's income type. Let's say the other parent, you want to enter their gross income as well. So let's say they earn $4,000 a month. Do you receive spousal maintenance? Let's say for the simplicity of this calculator, let's say nobody receives or gives any spousal maintenance. Of course, if you do, then you can click yes and you can enter the value here and date the maintenance was established. But for this example, let's just say nobody receives spousal maintenance. Does the other parent receive? No. Do you pay spousal maintenance? Let's say no. Does the other parent pay spousal maintenance? Let's also say no. Are the children receiving a social security benefit? And let's say no, because it says allotment paid on behalf of a retired or disabled parent. So these things are being taken care of, but in this simple example, let's just say no. Now it says, do you have other children for which you pay child support? Because then that will be taken into account. Let's say no, you have just this one child. And does the other parent pay child support? For other children, no. So basically, as you're saying, is just asking the same questions of the both of you. Let's say no. And then you're saying, do you have additional children for whom you are legally responsible who are not included in this estimate and for which there is no order for support? Once again, let's just say there's this one child, and the same question about the other parent. So let's say no for that too. Who is providing health insurance coverage for the children in this estimate? So let's assume that you have coverage from your employer in which you can include the child. So suppose you pay a certain amount to your employer, and by paying a little bit more, you can cover your child in your health insurance. So you are doing that. So let's say yes, and you have a family plan through your employer. Cost to provide coverage. Let's say you pay $50 a month. Maybe you have a really good coverage from your employer, and all you have to do is pay $50 a month to cover the both of you. Number of individuals covered, 2, which is you and the child. Do you pay childcare expenses for the children included in this estimate? Childcare expenses could be things like daycare or a nanny. Since in this case, both you and your ex work, let's assume both of you work full-time. Therefore, when the child gets back from school, there's a nanny that picks them up and takes them home and spends a few hours until you or your ex, they come back home, depending on where the child is on that day. So somebody is paying the nanny. Let's assume that it is your ex that is paying the nanny. So this you will say, do you pay childcare expenses? No, but does the other parent pay childcare expenses? Yes. And let's assume that the nanny's expense is $350 monthly. Any other extraordinary expenses or extracurricular expenses? Let's say the child is enrolled in football, right? And that's an extracurricular activity, and the football costs, say, $100 a month, and say you pay those $100 a month. So do you pay? Yes, you'll say yes. You pay $100 a month for the child. Does the other parent pay? No, this is the only extraordinary expense, let's assume. That's pretty much it. You say calculate. What that does is gives you a number and it gives you a worksheet. So the number it has calculated is that 602.89 monthly is the child support you will pay to your ex, and these are the shared childcare expenses. We had entered above that $350 was being paid to the nanny, right? $350 was being paid to the nanny, and there was some healthcare insurance coverage as well. This amount is simply, these two numbers are simply what make up that final amount, and we'll see that in the worksheet when we click on the worksheet. And again, the shared extracurricular expenses, which was $100 for the football lessons, it got split between the CP, which is the custodial parent, which is your ex, and non-custodial parent, which is you. Let's look at the worksheet. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. It's easier to see. So let's look at this. This is a PDF, and you can save this PDF to your computer. And it has basically, what it has done is taken everything that we entered here and put that in the spreadsheet that can be presented to the court, to the judge. Parent A in this case is your ex, and parent B is you. Basically, parent A is the custodial parent and parent B is the non-custodial parent. And if you remember, we entered that your ex makes $4,000 a month and you make $5,000 a month gross. Based on the gross and using the standardized net income conversion table, which basically deducts some, makes some deductions and give you credit for a few expenses, the net for your X is 3166 and the net for you is 3779. This includes like deduction of taxes and 401k contributions and all that stuff. But as we looked at, it asks you the question: do you want to enter gross or do you want to enter net? We chose to enter gross. If you have more accurate net numbers, you can enter the net numbers. And then maintenance received, we had said no. Maintenance paid, we had said no. Multifamily means there are other children. We said no, there are no other children. Let's go down. So basically what it has done, it has now just taken the 3166 and entered that here. Of course, because all of these numbers are 0, and taken the 3779 and entered that here. And this becomes a total, the combined net income of the parents. Now the parents are jointly responsible for supporting the child, which means that it's the joint income that determines how much child support the two of you are obligated to together. If this number was significantly higher, that means the two of you are wealthier. Therefore, the child deserves a higher standard of living. That's how the government calculates the numbers. If this number was significantly lower, then it means that the two of you are not as wealthy. Therefore, the standard of living that you can give to your child will be calculated to be lower. So basically what the government does is, using this number, it computes an amount that the two of you are expected or estimated to spend on the child given your standard of living based on your incomes. Then what it does is it splits this amount in these two ratios to come up with the percentages. So this is basically saying 45.59% of this total value is coming from parent A and 54.4% is coming from parent B. These are the numbers that are going to be used from now on for every other expense as well. So these are the income ratios, and this number will get plugged into your court order, and all expenses from now on by default will be approached. The split will be approached in this ratio by default, unless you can prove there's a reason to not do that. Let's scroll down a little. Now, basic child support 1129, as we were talking about, based on this number, the court calculates that 1129 is the estimate that you're expected to spend on the child to raise this child together, right? But together, it means that if you were living together and you were earning 6,945 net per month, then you would have most likely spend 1,129 on the child. Now, of course, these are numbers that the government has based on some statistical computations, and there is no expectation that this is the exact number that you will spend. But to come up with some estimate, this is what the government has calculated. And now this number is going to be split in these ratios, which means that parent A's obligation is 514.71 and parent B's obligation is 614.29. Sorry. This is the basic child support obligation. We haven't taken into consideration the other expenses yet, like daycare. This is just the basic necessary expense that is split. So these are the obligations of the two parents. Now, we said that the cost of child's health care or cost of child's health insurance premium is $50 for you and the child. So this spreadsheet simply divided that by 2 and said, okay, so for the child, you're essentially paying $25 a month for health insurance. So that is the expense of health insurance on the child. Now, all expenses for the child are supposed to be taken care of by both parents, which means that this $25 is the responsibility of both parents. You are paying it, but it is the responsibility of both parents. So if we divide this in the same ratio as 45, 59, and 54, 41%, then Your ex's responsibility of the $25 is $11.40, and your responsibility is $13.60. So you have paid $25, but your obligation is only $13. Therefore, you have overpaid by $11.40. And this amount will then be deducted from your obligation to arrive at your updated obligation. And we will see that down here. So as you can see, this number 602.89, let's go back up a little bit just to understand. This value, you subtract this value, it comes out to be the 602.89 number that we looked at below. So basically it has deducted, given you credit for the extra that you have paid. Let's look at the extraordinary expenses. We had entered that $100 is what is being spent on the football lessons. And again, this $100 is the responsibility of the two of you together. Even though one parent is paying for it, it's the joint responsibility. So whoever pays extra will get credit. 45.59 and 54.41 is again the ratio, is the split based on the income ratios for this amount. Also, we had entered that $350 was how much was being spent on the nanny. That is also a shared expense. So parent A's obligation of that expense is 159.57 and your obligation is 190.44. This number we already talked about. It is your basic obligation less the credit you get for the $11.40. And basically it just says that although depicted above, items listed in other expenses are not included in the amount shown as child support obligation. Basically what it's saying is this is your obligation just for the basic obligation part. For any additional expenses, the obligations are split in this way. And whoever pays, so basically what it means is that if your ex paid it the $350 for the nanny, then you're obligated to send him or her a check for $190.44 for that expense to pay for your obligation. And if you paid $100 for the football lessons, then your ex is obligated to pay you $45.59 as their obligation. Of course, the court may order that if these expenses are going to be always present, then you may deduct that from this amount or add this to this amount as the case may be and just make up one monthly number. So as it says in the end, the court in its discretion may order either or both parents to contribute to the other expenses, right? So basically, usually expenses are shared, but once in a while you could have expenses that are not approved by the other parent. So there is no necessary expense. If there's no necessary expense, then then there's no need to split. But for necessary expenses, you would split. For unnecessary expenses or the non-necessary expenses, usually what happens is that the court expects that the parents will have an agreement on the expense and then they will share the expense, right? Usually the extracurricular expenses, if they're within a reasonable limit, are approved and shared. The basic obligation is always shared. Anything above that is up to the discretion of the court, and then if the parents agree or not. So as this says, the court in its discretion may order either or both parents to contribute to these expenses. So there you go. This is a PDF that you can save and you can attach with your petition for modification or response to petition for modification. The judge will take a look at it. Of course, you will have to provide all the evidence in support of the numbers you've entered here, For your income, you'll have to provide your W-2s or income tax returns. And for any expenses you claim you've made, like the football expense, then you'll have to provide receipts. But assuming that these numbers are accurate and you can prove them, then this is a good estimate, but this is still just an estimate. If you want to make sure you've got these numbers right, you can talk to an attorney. They can tell you what kind of documents to submit to the court that will prove these numbers, that will be accepted as admissible evidence. I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you the information you need, at least to get started. And I hope that you like this video and that you will subscribe to my channel if you want more videos like that. I wish you all the best. Thank you for watching.